The next morning, the house was quiet. David sat at the kitchen table, staring at the strange photo again. It showed Emily and Tom, his own brother, sitting at a cafe, clearly together. Their hands were touching and they were smiling. On the back of the photo, one line was written in messy black ink: "This goes deeper than you think." David turned the photo over again and again. His chest felt heavy. Who sent this? Why now? And what did it mean by deeper? He called Detective Ramirez immediately. She promised to send the image to the lab for fingerprint testing. "I think someone's trying to warn you," she said, "or scare you. We need to be careful." Meanwhile, Ethan sat alone in his room. He felt torn. On one hand, he was glad his dad didn't marry Emily, but on the other hand, their home didn't feel like home anymore. Everything felt broken. He looked through the photo album on his shelf, pictures of his mom, his dad, and even Uncle Tom. He paused at one photo, his 5th birthday party. Tom was there, holding the cake with a big smile. Emily wasn't in the picture, but she was in their lives now, even in her absence. Ethan's heart ached. That evening, David found something strange. He went to the garage to look for a screwdriver. While searching, he noticed an old box marked Emily wedding stuff. He almost left it alone, but something told him to open it. Inside were decorations, leftover ribbons, and a folder. He opened the folder slowly. Inside were printed emails between Emily and Tom dating back 6 months before she even met David. They talked about money, fake names, and how to gain David's trust. One line made David's blood run cold: "Once the wedding is done, I'll transfer the money to your account. He won't see it coming." And at the bottom a name was signed: Rebecca. That was her real name. David sank to the floor. So it was never love, never about family. It was all a setup, and the worst part, his own brother was behind it. Just then a knock came at the door. David opened it to find Detective Ramirez again, but this time, she wasn't alone. A young woman stood beside her. She had short, dark hair, serious eyes, and carried a leather notebook. "This is Agent Lee from Financial Crimes," Ramirez said. "She's been tracking Rebecca over 2 years." Agent Lee spoke gently but clearly. "Mr. Matthews, I believe you and your son were part of a larger scam. Rebecca and your brother Tom were part of a group targeting widowed men with savings, using fake relationships to steal money." David was shocked. "You mean there are more victims?" "Yes," Agent Lee nodded. 3 confirmed so far, and you were supposed to be the 4th. Ethan had come down the stairs quietly. He stood behind his father, listening as Tom ... "Dangerous?" Ethan asked suddenly. Ramirez looked at him. "We don't know yet, but we believe he may have gone into hiding, and we think he took money with him." David looked at the floor. I don't understand how my own brother could do this to me." To Ethan, Agent Lee said softly, "Sometimes the people we trust the most are the ones who hurt us the deepest." The next morning, something unexpected happened. A letter arrived. No stamp, no return address. It had just one sentence inside: "If you want to know the whole truth, meet me at Fairview Park, 6 p.m. There was no name, but something told David it wasn't from a stranger. He looked at Ethan, unsure whether to go. "Should I meet them?" he asked. Ethan nodded slowly. "You need answers, Dad." David took a deep breath. "Then I'll go." Cliffhanger ending. At 6 p.m. David arrived at Fairview Park. The wind was strong and the sky was gray. He waited by the bench near the lake. A hooded figure slowly walked toward him. "You came," the figure said in a low voice. David stepped forward. "Who are you?" The hood came down and David froze. It wasn't Tom. It was someone he hadn't seen in years. The wind blew softly through Fairview Park as David waited near the lake. The sun had begun to set, casting orange and pink light across the water. His hands were sweaty, and his heart beat fast. He stared at the hooded figure who had just removed their hood. It wasn't Tom. It wasn't Emily. It was Lena. David blinked. "Lena," he whispered. Lena was Emily's younger sister, or so David had once been told. He had only met her once briefly at a holiday dinner, but now she stood before him, looking different. No makeup, dark circles under her eyes, and sadness in her expression. "Why are you here?" David asked carefully. Lena looked down. "Because you need the whole truth, and because I couldn't live with the guilt anymore." The hidden past. Lena sat down on the bench. David stayed standing, arms crossed. "You don't know everything about Rebecca Millie," she began. "She wasn't always like this. She used to be kind, funny, but then she met Tom." David's eyes narrowed. "She met Tom at a casino. He was already involved in scams, stealing from rich or lonely people, and he pulled Rebecca into it. At first, she just helped with small things, making fake profiles, pretending to be someone else. But then it became real. She became Emily." David clenched his jaw. "She lied to me, to my son." Lena nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "She did. And I was part of it at first. I helped her change her identity. I thought we'd just scam you for money and leave. But when Rebecca saw how you loved Ethan, how kind you were, something changed. She started to feel guilty. She wanted out." David's hands shook. "Then why did she keep lying?" "Because Tom threatened her," Lena said, her voice cracking. "He said if she left, he'd hurt you, hurt Ethan. He was watching her every move." David took a step back. His own brother. capable of threatening a child. I don't know where he is now, Lena added, but I believe he's still watching. You're not safe. A race against time back at home. Ethan played quietly in his room, but then he noticed something strange. A black van parked across the street. No one got out. He watched from behind the curtain. After 10 minutes, the van started again, then slowly turned the corner. Ethan felt chills down his spine. He grabbed the house phone and called the detective. Meanwhile, at the park, Lena handed David a USB drive. This has recordings, she said. Phone calls, messages, everything. Rebecca saved them in case she ever disappeared. She wanted you to know the truth one day. David took it slowly, as if it were a bomb. Lena stood up. I've told you everything I know. I'm going to the police now. I'll confess to what I helped with. David watched her walk away, unsure if he felt relief or pain. The final twist. Back at home, Detective Ramirez rushed in minutes after Ethan's call. She checked the area and found hidden cameras near the backyard. It's him, she said. Tom's watching you. David showed her the USB. The police took it as evidence. They listened to the files, and soon they had everything they needed. Voice recordings, money transfers, fake IDs, enough to issue an international warrant. A week later, Tom was captured at an airport trying to leave the country with a fake passport. The news spread fast. But even with justice served, the pain lingered. A new beginning. Months passed. The house became peaceful again. No more watching over their shoulders. No more lies. David began writing a book about the experience, a story of betrayal, love, and a child's courage. He titled it, Ethan's Truth. Ethan smiled more now. He felt safe again, and David made a promise to him every night. No more secrets ever again. Final scene. Emotional ending. One evening, David and Ethan visited the old chapel. It was quiet. Sunlight streamed through the windows, just like that day. Ethan placed a single white flower on the floor. For Mom, he whispered. David placed one beside it, and for the truth, he said. They stood there together. No music, no crowd, just father and son healing. Because in the end, it wasn't the lies that won, it was love, and the bravery of an 8-year-old boy who stopped a wedding and saved his family. Outside the small chapel, the sound of sirens grew louder. Inside, no one moved. Everyone's eyes were on Emily, now sitting on one of the chairs near the back, her hands shaking. Her eyes filled with fear but not sadness. David stood still, in the middle of the aisle, the little voice recorder in his hand. His face looked like it had aged 10 years in just 10 minutes. His mind was racing. He looked at Ethan, then at Emily. The guests whispered softly among themselves. Did you hear what she said on that recording? Who was she meeting after the wedding? Why would she lie to David? But Ethan said nothing. He stood near the altar, his heart beating fast, his small hand still holding the ring pillow. He looked at his dad, silently hoping he hadn't broken his heart beyond repair. The chapel doors flew open. 2 police officers walked in quickly, followed by a woman in plain clothes holding a tablet. She looked like a detective. She came straight to Emily. Ma'am, we've received reports of a possible identity fraud and theft case. Can you please stand up? Emily's face turned white. This is a mistake, she said quickly. That boy is lying. He made up a fake recording. The officer looked at David. Sir, are you David Matthews? Yes, he said slowly, still in shock. We believe this woman may be using a false identity. There is an open investigation under the name Emily Carter, connected to suspicious financial activity in 3 different states. We have reason to believe this woman has been going by different names and marrying widowers for personal gain. David's knees buckled slightly. He grabbed a chair and sat down. What are you talking about? He whispered. She told me her family was from Florida. She said she worked at a hospital. Double quotes. Ethan stepped forward. She lied, Dad. I saw her papers once when she left her bag open. Her ID didn't say Emily. It said Rebecca Morris. That's how I knew something was wrong. The detective looked at Ethan and gave a small nod of respect. You're very brave, young man. Emily suddenly stood up, her voice loud now. This is ridiculous. You can't just arrest someone in front of a church full of people. I didn't do anything, but the officers didn't hesitate. One of them gently took her arm. Ma'am, we have enough evidence to bring you in for questioning. You have the right to remain silent. As they read her rights, Emily looked around desperately. No one stood up for her. The guests looked away, embarrassed and shocked. Ethan watched as Emily was led out of the chapel in handcuffs. The detective turned back to David. I know this is hard, sir, but if your son hadn't spoken up, she might have gone through with it and then disappeared. You're lucky. David didn't answer right away. He stared down at the recorder in his hand. So many thoughts were fighting in his head: shock, betrayal, sadness, confusion. He looked up at Ethan. His son's eyes were filled with tears. I didn't want to hurt you, Dad, Ethan said softly. I wanted to protect you. David stood up. He walked over and kneeled down in front of his son. He didn't hurt me, Ethan, he said, his voice cracking. You saved me. Tears rolled down both their cheeks as David hugged Ethan tightly. The guests, still in shock, quietly watched the emotional scene. A few wiped their eyes. Someone whispered, that boy is a hero. As the officers drove away, with Emily in the back seat of their car. The once happy wedding day had turned into something no one would ever forget. But the real story wasn't about betrayal. It was about courage. The courage of one small boy who had the strength to speak up, even when it meant stopping his own father's wedding. Cliffhanger ending, but the story wasn't over. At the police station, during questioning, Emily said one last thing that would shake David and Ethan once again. I'm not the only one. There's someone else close to you, keeping secrets too. 3 days had passed since the wedding disaster. The chapel was empty now. The flowers had been taken down. The chairs were back in storage, but the pain still lingered in David's heart. He sat quietly in the living room, staring at nothing. His once happy home now felt cold and strange. Every corner reminded him of Emily and the lie she had been living. Across from him, Ethan sat with a worried look. He hadn't seen his father smile since the wedding, and now something new was troubling him. That morning, David had received a call from the police. Mr. Matthews, we thought you should know. During questioning, Emily claimed there's someone else involved, someone close to you. David had felt his stomach twist at those words. He had asked, but the detective didn't give a name. We're still investigating, they said, but if you notice anything strange, let us know. Now David kept going over every memory, every conversation, every person he trusted. Was someone else lying to him? He picked up a picture frame from the coffee table. It was an old family photo: David, Ethan, and Uncle Tom, David's younger brother. Tom had been a big help since David's wife passed away. He visited often, helped with Ethan, and even introduced David to Emily at a friend's party months ago. That's when something clicked. David's eyes narrowed. Wait, he whispered to himself. He stood up and walked to his bedroom. He opened the drawer where he kept old bills and letters. He pulled out a wedding gift list. There, written in neat handwriting, was Emily's full name and address, but it wasn't in her handwriting. It wasn't Tom's. He looked through more papers and found an email printout from the event planner. Again, Tom had handled most of the planning, and suddenly memories came rushing back. The way Emily always knew things about David before he even told her. The way Tom used to talk about how David needed someone, how Tom had met Emily before he even introduced her to David but never mentioned it. David's hands trembled. Was it possible? He didn't want to believe it, but the puzzle pieces were starting to fit. He picked up the phone and called the detective. I think I know who Emily meant, he said. I think it's my brother. Later that evening, Detective Ramirez arrived at David's house. Ethan stayed close by, listening from the hallway. We did a background check, she explained, and you were right to be suspicious. Your brother Tom used his work computer to help Emily create a fake identity. He even booked hotel rooms in her alias name. David felt like the air had been knocked out of him. But why? He asked. Why would my own brother do this to me? The detective paused. We believe it was for money. Emily had a history of conning people, but she needed help getting close to you. Someone you trusted. Your brother helped set the trap. David sat back, speechless. From the hallway, Ethan stepped in slowly. Does that mean Uncle Tom knew the whole time? David nodded, his eyes filled with tears again. Yes, buddy, I'm afraid he did. Ethan looked down at the floor. But I liked Uncle Tom. I know, David said softly. So did I, the detective added. We've issued a warrant for his arrest, but he's disappeared. We think he left the city right after the wedding fell apart. David nodded slowly. His heart felt like it had broken all over again. First Emily, now his own brother. Everything he believed in had fallen apart, but then he looked at Ethan. That his son had told the truth, had the courage to speak up, and now that truth was helping him find the real answers. David placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. You're the only one who never lied to me, he said. Ethan hugged him tight. I'll always tell you the truth, Dad, I promise. Cliffhanger ending. The next day, David received a mysterious letter with no return address. Inside was a single photo, Emily and Tom sitting together at a cafe holding hands. On the back of the photo, one sentence was written. This goes deeper than you think. The morning sun shone gently through the stained glass windows of the small country chapel. A soft golden light covered the floor as guests began to arrive, their voices low with excitement. Laughter, camera clicks, and the smell of fresh flowers filled the air. It was supposed to be a perfect day, a day full of love, family, and new beginnings. David Matthews stood near the altar, dressed in a sharp black tuxedo. He was smiling nervously, fixing his cufflinks over and over again. His heart was full. After years of loneliness following the loss of his wife, he had finally found happiness again, or so he thought. Beside him stood his 8-year-old son, Ethan. The boy looked handsome in his tiny suit that matched his father's. His dark curls were neatly combed, and he held a small white pillow with 2 gold rings tied to it. But unlike his smiling father, Ethan didn't look happy. He didn't even look calm. His brown eyes were full of worry. His small hands held the pillow so tightly, his knuckles turned white. He shifted from foot to foot, his breath short, his eyes not leaving his dad's face. You look great, Dad, Ethan whispered, trying to keep his voice steady. David smiled, turning to his son. Thanks, buddy. You're the best ring bearer a dad could ask for. He gently ruffled Ethan's hair. Ethan nodded, but inside, his stomach twisted. He didn't want to ruin his dad's big day, but he knew something was wrong. Deep down, he felt it. Today he would have to do something scary, something that could change everything. The chapel was now full. Family, friends, and neighbors had all come to witness the wedding. The music began to play the soft, sweet notes of the wedding march. Everyone stood up, turning their heads to look at the back of the chapel. The big wooden doors slowly opened. There she was, Emily, the bride. She looked beautiful in her white lace gown, her golden hair curled perfectly, her blue eyes full of emotion. She smiled as she walked down the aisle, holding a bouquet of white roses. People whispered, "She looks like a princess." David's face lit up with love. "You look beautiful," he whispered as Emily reached the altar. Emily smiled back. "I can't wait to start our life together," she whispered. The priest began to speak. His calm voice echoed gently through the chapel, welcoming everyone, and talking about love and new beginnings. But Ethan barely heard the words. His eyes were fixed on Emily. His heart beat fast. To the guests, Ethan might have looked nervous because of the ceremony, but inside he was reliving the memories that had led to this moment. He remembered the first time he met Emily. It was a cool autumn afternoon. David picked Ethan up from school, smiling like a teenager. "I've got someone special I want you to meet, buddy," he had said with excitement. "She's really kind. I think you'll like her." When they got home, Emily was already waiting. On the porch, she waved at them, her golden hair glowing in the sunlight. She bent down to Ethan's level and smiled. "It's so nice to finally meet you, Ethan. Your dad talks about you all the time," she said sweetly. At first, Ethan felt hopeful. Maybe she really would make his dad happy again, but slowly things began to feel strange. When David was around, Emily was all smiles and kindness. She asked Ethan about school, made cookies, and even played board games with him. But when they were alone, her smile vanished. Ethan remembered one night clearly. His dad had to work late, and Emily was watching him. As they sat at the dinner table, Ethan tried to talk. "Miss Emily," he asked carefully, "do you like space? We're learning about planets in school." Emily didn't look up from her phone. "I'm busy right now. Eat your dinner quietly, please." Her tone was cold. There was no smile, no kindness. Ethan felt small and confused. Why was she so different when Dad wasn't home? Over the weeks, Ethan began to notice more. The way Emily spoke in secret on her phone, the way she changed the subject when David asked about her past, the way her eyes turned cold when no one was watching. And then, one day, Ethan heard something he wasn't supposed to. He was playing in the hallway when he heard Emily speaking on the phone behind a half-closed door. "He doesn't suspect a thing. Just a little longer," she whispered. There was a pause. "Yes, I'm still using the same name." "No, he has no idea. Once it's done, I'll meet you." Ethan froze. He didn't understand all the words, but he knew it wasn't right. Something about it made him feel sick now. As the priest continued the wedding ceremony, Ethan stood frozen in place. His heart was pounding. Should he speak? Should he stop it? He looked up at his father's face, so full of joy, so unaware of the danger. Ethan's hands tightened around the ring pillow. The priest said the words Ethan had been dreading. "If there is anyone here who believes this couple should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." Everything went silent. Ethan looked around. No one moved. And then, slowly, with a shaking voice, the small boy stepped forward. The air inside the chapel turned cold. Even though the sunlight still streamed through the windows, a heavy silence filled the space as every eye turned toward Ethan. The boy stood at the front of the aisle, clutching the ring pillow, his hands still shaking. His small voice cut through the silence. I have something to say," Ethan said, barely louder than a whisper. At first, no one reacted. They thought maybe he was just nervous. Maybe he wanted to say something sweet about the bride and groom, but his face said otherwise. His lips trembled. His eyes were filled with fear and pain. "Ethan," David asked gently, confused. "Buddy, what is it?" The priest looked around nervously. Emily gave a soft laugh and reached for Ethan's shoulder. "It's okay, sweetheart," she said sweetly. "Don't be nervous." But Ethan pulled back. His voice grew louder now, clearer, stronger. "She's lying to you, Dad. She's not who you think she is." Gasps echoed through the chapel. Some guests leaned in. Others looked at each other in confusion. David blinked, stunned. "What are you talking about, son?" Ethan swallowed hard. His throat was dry, but he kept going. "I heard her talking to someone on the phone," he said, looking right at his dad. "She said, you don't know who she really is. She said once it's done, she'll leave." Emily's face changed. The smile slowly dropped from her lips. Her eyes darted around the room, then locked onto Ethan with a cold glare, just like the one she used when David wasn't around. "Ethan, stop this right now," she said in a low voice. "You're just confused." "I'm not," Ethan shouted. And this time, his voice echoed across the chapel walls. "You pretend to be nice when Dad's around, but when he's not, you're mean. You yell, you ignore me, you don't care about us." Emily stepped forward, trying to grab the pillow from Ethan's hands, but before she could reach him, Ethan pulled something from his pocket, a small toy recorder. He held it tightly. Don't have to believe me, he said. Just listen. He pressed play. A woman's voice, Emily's voice, came through the tiny speaker. The sound wasn't very loud, but it was clear enough. He doesn't suspect a thing. Just a little longer. I'm still using the same name. Once it's done, I'll meet you. The entire chapel froze. The words played again. Ethan had looped the recording. People gasped. A few guests covered their mouths in shock. One woman whispered, "Oh my God." David stood still. His face went pale. "Emily," he asked slowly, "what is this?" Emily's mouth opened, but no words came out. "That's not me," she finally said. "It's fake. He's just a kid. He's trying to ruin our wedding." But her voice trembled now, and everyone could see it. One of the guests, a woman from the third row, stood up. "That's your voice. I know it. You used to work with my sister at the bank. You sound exactly the same." Emily's eyes widened in panic. "I don't know what you're talking about," she snapped. David stepped forward now, holding the small recorder in his hand. His hand shook. "Is this true?" he asked. "Tell me right now." Emily stayed silent. Her eyes moved quickly toward the back door of the chapel. That's when a man near the exit stood up and shouted, "Call the police." Emily gasped and suddenly ran. She pushed through the guests, knocking over a flower stand, heading straight for the door. But she didn't get far. Two young men blocked her path. A woman grabbed her arm. David rushed behind her. "Emily, stop," he yelled. But she wasn't listening. The room had gone from peaceful to chaotic in seconds. People were shouting. Someone dialed 911. The priest dropped his book. Guests hurried to help hold Emily back. Ethan stood frozen at the front, still holding the ring pillow, the little recorder lying beside him. He couldn't believe what he had just done. He had stopped his father's wedding. He had told the truth, but what would happen now? His chest hurt, his eyes filled with tears, not because he was scared but because his heart was breaking for his father. Cliffhanger ending. Outside the chapel, sirens began to wail. Police were on their way. And the truth, the real truth about Emily was about to come out.